Okay, so we're recording. Thanks for getting on tonight. Tonight, we are going to be talking about, yes, Tia, thanks for hopping on. Hopefully, we will have a few more people joining us here. I know the time was different tonight, so we'll see how this works. So tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit about the compensation plan and really how to maximize the income that you're making, because there you can definitely, especially once you get into coach placement stuff, there is some strategy to it, and there are ways that you can kind of screw yourself over if you're not careful, and that's why I recommend, especially at the beginning of being a coach, until you really feel like you have a good grasp on coach placement and how the whole thing works, that you talk to your upline before you enroll a coach, or at least get a game plan together, because your upline is going to be able to help you figure out, looking at your place in the team and what coaches you already have on your team, both personally sponsored and not. They're going to be able to look at that and really help you figure out where to put the next coach, and strategize so that you are maximizing your income. But hopefully this will help give you a little bit of an overview so that you start to understand what's happening with the whole team structure and team volume and the cycle bonuses and all of that stuff, so that you can kind of start to figure out on your own where coaches need to go and understand it. And obviously, if you ask your upline and your upline is brand new, or your upline is, doesn't have a team under them, you're probably going to want to go up to either your diamond or star diamond. By the time somebody is diamond, they should have a pretty good grasp on placement, but definitely your star diamond will. So I think for most of the people on the team, well, maybe not most, I'm a lot of your star diamond. Tova is the other star diamond on the team. So it will probably be one of the two of us. So anyway, I am going to start off. I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Okay, so I made a little graphic that will hopefully get kind of show you what's going on here with this, because I think that when you just talk about the team structure, it is a little bit complicated, and it's hard to explain in words, and I think it really helps to have a visual. But first, so obviously I think most of us are familiar with retail commissions as a way to get income. And obviously at the beginning, most of your income, well, all of your income until you are an emerald, is going to come from retail commission. So when a customer comes and orders a product, you are going to get 25% back basically on what they order. So if they order Shakeology at retail pricing, so at $130, you're going to get approximately $30 back, in commission on that order. And there is also, so challenge packs have more of like a dollar amount assigned to them. It's not a percentage, I don't believe. But you might also see, when you enroll a coach with a challenge pack, I always talk about it like it's retail commission. If you go into your commission check, it's not going to show up under that retail commission heading. It's going to show up as a fast start bonus. And that is because that is what they use to enroll as a coach. So technically it's not retail. And you're personally not getting the volume from that order credited towards you. You're getting team volume from it, which we're going to go over in a minute, but you're not, that challenge pack order that a coach uses to enroll is not going to go into your personal volume. It's going to be their personal volume, which is what's going to make them active right away. So that's going to count for their personal volume. And that's part of why, too, that it's not in there as a retail commission, because it's not personal volume that that you're earning. Does that make sense, Tia?
It does. I mean, I never noticed it as retail versus the fast start, because I thought it was just, you get it off their first purchase. You make something off of, you don't make anything off of anything else,
Yeah.
unless you cycle.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's part of why, in my mind, I just kind of think of it as retail volume, whether it's a customer challenge pack order or a coach challenge pack order,
Right.
because you're making the same amount on it either way. But just so, like, if because I know you had a question on one of them where you go and look at your commission check and you're like, what the heck is this? So, and one other little thing I want to talk about in terms of kind of along the lines of that fast start bonus, which a lot of people don't really know about. I feel like coaches don't talk about it a whole lot when they're talking about the compensation plan, but that is, and I completely forget what they call it now, but it basically, if you enroll 5 coaches with a challenge pack order in 5 weeks. So you could enroll 5 coaches all in 1 week, or 1 coach a week, or 3 at the beginning of the 5 weeks and 2 at the end. As long as it's 5 coaches in that 5-week period, you will get an extra $100 bonus. So that is obviously $100 is nothing to sneeze at. That's a fair amount of money that's really going to boost your check. And a lot of people don't know that that bonus exists. So that was part of why I wanted to mention that. And that's, one of the things of building your team is, if you can get enough coaches enrolling with challenge packs quickly, you're really going to see your paychecks jump with those they're called fast start some kind of bonus. So, and you'll see that too, like if you go into your Coach Online office and go to My Business, My Commissions, and look at that, you'll see it will show you sorry, my phone is reminding me that we have our call. So you will see that it's all, well, I guess you'll have, so the first screen you're going to come to is going to have your paycheck, the dollar amount, and then when it was deposited, it'll show how much was deposited. So if you click on that blue, it'll be blue because
it's the dollar figure.
Yeah, exactly. If you click on the dollar figure, it'll take you into a breakdown of where you made all of that commission, or bonuses, like all of what made up your paycheck basically. And then you can click on those further. So if you are looking at like your retail commission and you're like, oh, I don't remember what customers ordered, you can actually click on that again and it will show you what orders contributed to that. So that kind of brings me on into the cycle bonuses, which again, I think this is what, where a lot of people get confused and they don't understand how it works. And so if you don't understand how this works, it's going to be a lot harder to figure out where you need to place coaches, and just it kind of seems like a mystery of where that money is going to come from, because you hear some of these coaches talking about making $1,000 a week, and you're thinking, how on earth are they doing that? If you're looking at a retail commission perspective, that is a ton of Shakeology orders. You would have to sell so much Shakeology. Well, that's not coming from retail for the most part. In fact, a lot of coaches don't do all that much retail volume every week. It's probably something somewhat similar to what some of us on the team do, but they have built their team, so they are getting a lot of bonuses. And that's where the cycle bonuses come into play. So I made this little graphic to hopefully help you guys, and this white dot up here is as if it was you. So that's you as the coach placement on the little tree. And you can see over here, I think most people, if if you looked into the cycles or heard people talk about it, you'll hear if you're an emerald, you're going to make $14 a cycle. Most people don't talk about rubies because there are frankly not that many ruby coaches. A lot of people jump right over the ruby rank. Like I went straight from emerald to diamond because so in order to get to be an emerald, you need 2 personally sponsored coaches. Let's back up into that a little bit. So you need 2 personally sponsored coaches, 1 on each leg. So if this is you, in order to get emerald, you would need this little yellow guy is personally sponsored on your left, and this little yellow guy personally sponsored on your right. And that would make you an emerald. In order to get to ruby, you need 3 coaches on your left and 3 coaches on your right of your personally sponsored coaches. And 1 on the left needs to be an emerald themselves, and 1 on the right needs to be an emerald themselves. And I think a lot of people, which I definitely did, so I had a bunch of coaches. I had a bunch of personally sponsored coaches. What took me the longest to get was other coaches under me, so my personally sponsored coaches, to get to emerald. And that's why, so I ended up with, for diamond, you need 4 personally sponsored on your left and 4 personally sponsored on your right. And then you need an emerald. Of those 4 on one side, you need an emerald on your left and an emerald on your right. So you need a total of 8 coaches, 2 of which are emeralds on opposite legs. And because for a lot of people, getting somebody else to build to emerald is more challenging, I guess, depending on what kind of coaches you're recruiting. I was getting a lot of discount coaches, so they weren't building to emerald, which is why I had enough coaches for diamond, and I went straight from emerald to diamond, if that makes sense.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
You're yellow on your weak leg.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't go directly down like that. Like I have that one yellow that has the 4 circles in it now. I have that. Then
Yeah.
my next 2 coaches are directly next to each other.
Yes. I was going to, it's fine.
I didn't screw that up.
I actually have you pulled up on this other tab over here to talk about, because you're not the only one on the team who has done that. So I will go over to the graphical genealogy in a little bit and show that. But they can be anywhere on your right leg. So if this guy, if this guy's over here, as long as it's a personally sponsored coach on your right leg, it doesn't matter where they are.
Okay.
It could be, if you accidentally put somebody over here, you still are like, they're still counting as your personally sponsored coach. So that, in one sense, a very long-term sense of building your team, it might slightly affect. In fact, I think we had talked about, which this gets a little bit more complicated, but if they are especially under your spouse, that can be a benefit to you.
Okay.
To actually,
which is how I did it, but definitely not on purpose.
Yeah. So, and I think once I explain how the volume works and how cycling works, you'll start to understand why that's going to be a bonus to your spouse, because you're basically collecting your spouse's paycheck. So you're actually boosting the volume on their inside leg, which is what we're gonna talk about. So yeah, that's not the end of the world. I have actually purposefully placed coaches, my own personally sponsored coaches like that, on my husband's inside leg.
Okay.
So yeah, don't worry about that. And yeah, for right now, basically, as long as they're on the correct leg, whether it's left or right, that doesn't matter so much where they're getting placed over there. So yeah, so for diamond, so basically for emerald, you'll hear people talk about emerald is $14 a cycle, diamond is $18 a cycle. And once you're a diamond, even if you're a 5-star or a 10-star or a 15-star, you're still going to be making $18 a cycle. So that is part of why, you know, it seems like it's only $4 difference, but that's why people push so hard to get to diamond, because that is, you know, $4. If you multiply that times, let's say you cycle 10 times, that's $40. That if you were only an emerald cycling 10 times versus a diamond cycling 10 times, it's a $40 difference. So the way that, and so we'll get into the cycles so that makes a little bit more sense. One other thing to note, in the compensation plan before we get into the cycle stuff, because I think we're going to spend a fair amount of time talking about that. So as a diamond, you also make a 10% matching bonus on all of your personally sponsored coaches' cycle bonuses. So like Tia, when you, let's say you cycle once as an emerald and you earn $14, I will get a 10% matching bonus on that as your sponsoring diamond. So I will, if you earn $14, then I'll get a $1.40 matching bonus is what they call it. And again, at the beginning, it seems like it's not that much, but then if you think about that, you know, some coaches, so say one of your personally sponsored coaches makes $100, then of cycle bonus, then as their diamond, you are going to make $10. Let's say they're making $500 of team cycle, then you're making $50 on them. And that's just one person. So you can see how if you have a whole bunch of emeralds and diamonds and other, you know, and rubies in your downline of your personally sponsored coaches, you know, it might be $1.40 here, $10 there. You know, you might have, you know, have a bunch of different bonuses, but that can add up to actually be a fair amount of income. And some of these, you know, obviously top coaches, they have a lot of, like, if you have a superstar diamond under you who's making a ton of volume every week, then they're, you know, or a ton of team cycle bonus, then that can add up to a very substantial dollar figure. And then just so you guys know too, you know, this might seem kind of like a long way off for you where you are right now in your business, but one of the reasons that people push so hard to get to 2-star, 5-star, 10-star, and 15-star is you also become eligible for quarterly bonuses. So if you, every quarter, if you hold that rank for 6 weeks of the quarter, so you only have to be a paid 2-star, like have your 2 diamonds for 6 weeks of the quarter, you then earn a quarterly bonus. And the way that works is Beachbody takes a percentage of all of the revenue, I believe, or all of the profits, and they basically divide it up amongst the coaches of those ranks. So you know, often the 2-star bonus, and it changes every quarter because obviously the profits change every quarter and the number of qualifying coaches change every quarter. But the 2-star one is usually right around like $800 or $900 a quarter. The 5-star, you're up into like a couple $1,000s a quarter. 10-star, you're getting up into, I think it's like in the $10,000 range a quarter, and 15-star, you're getting way up into like $20,000-$30,000 range a quarter, I think. So you can see how, you know, if you're making $30,000 a quarter, you know, that's an extra $120,000 a year. So that's where the big earning potential is. And again, you know, I said, you know, it can seem really far off when you're first getting started. And some coaches, it takes a really long time to build rank, and that's okay. But, you know, it's not that far off and not that big that you shouldn't write it off. I think that every single person on our team is fully capable of getting to 2-star and getting to 5-star. You just have to stick with the vital behaviors, be consistent. So I don't want you guys to feel like that's just something unattainable that you'll never get there, because I do think that everybody here is possible. You know, it's a possibility for you if you really stick with the business and work it. So anyway, you know, that kind of is an overview of all of the compensation plan. But what I really wanted to focus on was the team cycles, because I know that that is what gets confusing in this whole team structure. So again, going back to the little diagram, so the white is you, and the way I did it is the yellows are your personally sponsored coaches. The blues over here are coaches on the team, but that you haven't sponsored. And then the green is obviously an emerald, and they have their two, you know, well, this one has a couple more, but they have their guys on their left and their guys on their right, to have that emerald rank. And so you can see, and depending where you are on the team, this might be flipped around for you, or there are a few people like Brianne is my sponsor and coach, is basically orphaned. She will never, what they call an orphaned coach. She is in a place on the team where she will never have a coach above her place somebody below them. Because how this is going to work. So if this is you, and you're going to have a coach up here, most likely, who is building their team. When this guy up here, this imaginary person, puts a guy on their left leg, it's going to come down here. It's just going to continue to stack down like that. And so you'll often hear people talk about like a team leg or a power leg. And if you're in that position where you have other coaches above you building, that is what that means, is that when somebody above you sponsors a coach, that they're going to get put on one of your legs. But even if you don't, I mean, coming from me, so I am on a team leg, and Tia, you're on a team leg. There are not the coaches in between me and Brianne. So if this was me, the coaches up here who Brianne sponsored before she sponsored me, before I joined the team, they have not been very active. So most of the people underneath, I have a couple that, that Brianne has put down here, but it's not like I have a ton of coaches above me building this leg. And in fact, so for all of us, you're what you call your inside leg, this leg over here. And inside just basically means that there's nobody else building that leg. It's you. So this is the outside leg, and that's the inside leg. Again, you might be flipped so that your right leg is the team leg that other people are building, and the other side is your leg, basically, that you're only building. But so anyway, whichever position you're in, you can see, if you sponsor a coach on your left, they're going to come down here. If this guy sponsors a coach on his left, he's going to come down here. If you sponsor a coach on your right, they're going to go here on the inside of it. Now you might, like, let's say this guy decides that he's going to sponsor somebody, and puts them on their right leg. So that coach would get placed here, and they're going to be, oh no, I can't click it because of the thing. Anyway, so that one in theory is blue. Let me see if I can move that window. There we go. Okay. So you will start to have, if you have coaches on your team that so your personally sponsored coaches start to build, that's when you're really going to start to have, it's going to seem like less work, because it's not just you sponsoring coaches, it's a bunch of people contributing to the team. And that's actually what happened to me. You know, I sponsored Hill, I sponsored my mom, I sponsored Tova. Tova took a little while, and then all of a sudden she was like, I need this to work. I really want this to work as a business. And she went to town and she got to Diamond. So she has a big network under her of all of her coaches. And then she had sponsored Jen Dacre, and Jen really built a team. So now my left leg, you know, my left leg looked like this and my right leg looked like this. And I just couldn't ever really see. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to have to work so hard to, you know, keep adding coaches over here on my inside. Well, once they started building, I actually ended up with more coaches over here on my right leg, because it was more than just me contributing. And likewise over here, you know, you're going to end up, you're going to end up with other coaches building underneath of you. And again, even if you're orphaned, if you sponsor a coach who sponsors a coach who sponsors a coach who ends up going Diamond or Star Diamond, you're going to have that whole team network over here contributing to your volume. And that it comes down to volume. And that's why you want to build your team. And that's why it's important to try to find people who also want to build their team, or a few levels down from you, and really to be supporting coaches who aren't, you know, even if they're not your personally sponsored coach, a lot of the time they're going to be contributing to your income because they're contributing to volume. And so basically the way that the volume works is all of these coaches over here, they might have their own personal order. So let's say, you know, this guy has their Shakeology ship. Shakeology is 90 team volume. So that would, every time that guy's Shakeology ships, it's going to put 90 more team volume over here, on your left leg volume. And if you have, like, you know, let's say this guy is retailing a whole lot and has a ton of retail sales, and, you know, he does 800 personal or 800 team volume that week. So that would put another 800 on, you know, onto your team volume.
Is there a difference between personal volume and team volume?
Yes. So each product is assigned a personal volume amount and a team volume amount. And sometimes it's the same. Like Shakeology, yeah. I don't worry too much about like what is what, you know, so Shakeology is a 90 for both, but there are some where the personal volume might be 45, but the team volume is only 15.
Okay. I didn't even notice that yet.
Like that. Yeah. And that's why I don't pay all that much attention to it. I'm really just looking at, you know, who is contributing to the volume, the team volume of the week. But I'm not really breaking down. I mean, it just, you know, that's the way they have it structured. I'm sure there's rationale behind that. So yeah, you'll basically, so every single week you are going to, all the volume, whether it's customer sales or their own personal orders from all of these coaches over here, is going to get added up. All of the team volume amounts will get added up to your team volume amount.
I'm sorry, did you say that's weekly?
Yeah, so it will continue to add up. So basically, you know, I look at it like, if you look at your volume report, if you go to like My Business, My Volume, it will show you, it has it broken down by week. But I'll get more into carryover volume, because as long as you stay active, and this is why it's so important to stay active once you hit Emerald, that volume will continue to accumulate. So, and then over here on this side, so all of the volume, the team volume that these coaches generate is going to add up. And so I just came up with kind of random numbers that are easy to do math on. So let's say this side, they did 200 in team volume this week. And this side had an awesome week and they did 4,000 in volume. The way that a cycle is calculated is the system is going to look at which side has more volume. So obviously the 4,000 is more, and the side that has more, it's going to subtract 200 from, and the side that has less, it's going to subtract 100 from. And so every time that it can do that, it can subtract 200 from the side with more and 100 from the side with less. That is one cycle. So in this example, you can take, 100 from that side twice, and you can take 400 from this side. Like there is enough to cover that 400. So that would equal you 2 cycles, because that's the most you can subtract of those two. So that equals 2 cycles. So if you're an emerald, you would have earned $28. And if you're a diamond, you would have earned $32. No, wrong math. $36. Sorry, guys. $36. So you can see how, again, it's not that much, but it's an $8 difference. And then you're going to start, so once they've subtracted the amounts for however many cycles they can do, the remaining volume is what's called carried over. So on this side, because I picked an even dollar amount, or an even volume amount, excuse me, you would have 0, because by the time you subtract 100 twice, you're going to end up with 0. Over here on this side, once you subtract 200 twice for your 2 cycles, you're going to end up with 3,600. And so if you're an emerald coach and you go into in the online office, into my business, my volume, my carryover volume, you can see what you have carried over on each side. And it's not going to be a round number, most likely. Like this would probably end up, because you wouldn't have 200, it would be like 205 or something like that. So you might have 5 carryover volume over here, but like, let's say if you have 5, you still can't cycle another time, because there's not 100 to take from that side. So basically then it's going to go, that would be your paycheck for the week, on your team cycle bonus, if you could cycle twice by the end of the week. And you would get paid out, like if you're an emerald, you get paid out $28. Now let's say the next week these guys do 600, and these guys, let me see, do 400. So then it's going to add this. So now you're back up to 4,000 on this leg, and you're at 600 on this side. So you're going to be able to cycle you'd be at 605, I guess, with that little thing. So then you'd be able to cycle 6 times. And like, even though this side was less for the week, because you have the carryover volume, that gets you back to 4,000 on that side of total volume. So then you would get your 6 cycles, and you would get paid out 6 times 14. So that is part of why. Does that all make sense, Tia?
It does, but I'm wondering. It just doesn't seem like my right ever gets to be enough. Like I constantly have 40 just sitting there. So it's not even getting to 102 cycle.
Yeah. Well, and that's what, again, at the beginning, when this leg is really slow, and when your inside leg is, and like right now, I know you have your husband over there. Like, we can go look real quick. Can you see?
I did good look. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You can see the graphical genealogy now. Okay. So like you have your husband over here, and you have Leah, and you have Rosalia. So they are, yeah, so they did, it looks like 40 volume on the right for the week. Now that's going to keep getting added up. And then when you get to 100, so part of it is that they're all discount for the most part right now. They're just not generating that much volume. But if every single one of their Shakeology ships, like let's say you were having Shakeology under Ed's account and Leah was getting hers and Rosalia was getting hers, that would be 270. Like if they all had their Shakeology ship that month, that would be 270 of volume for the month, throughout the month at some point. So at some point in the month, you're going to cycle twice.
Let me ask you a question. I just ordered performance stuff over on Ed's account.
Yes.
And I have Shakeology monthly. Would I be better off putting the monthly Shakeology on him and me doing the?
No. Did you get a full stack?
I got two things, I think. I think it's 65 PV.
Okay. So the reason I always keep my Shakeology on my account, I only ever order one bag on my account, but I keep it on Home Direct. And the reason for that is I always have my Success Club qualification, because if you want to qualify for Success Club, you need 90 PV on Home Direct. And that can come from anywhere. So you could do like 2-3 day refreshes on Home Direct. You could do like the base performance stack I think it's 90 as well. So you could have that on Home Direct on your account. But that's why I always make sure that I just keep my Shakeology order on my account, and I have that 90 PV no matter what. And that way I don't have to worry about like the last day of the month, I hit Success Club, did my order ship out, that kind of thing, or I have to order 90 PV of stuff on Home Direct. But anything else you should order through his account, because your idea is right. Because you want him to, so let's say you got the super expensive performance stack, like all 5 things. And I can't remember what the volume is on that, but I think it's over 200, something like that. So you're gonna, for every amount that he orders, or you place an order on his account, you're gonna then cycle on it. So you're actually gonna, in a sense, get money back on it. So let's say you needed an extra bag of Shakeology, you order it on his account, you're basically getting almost $14 back on that bag of Shakeology. Because it's 90, so you're not quite going to get a cycle, but you're only 10 PV away, or TV, I should say, teen volume away from a cycle. If you had, like, if there was a workout program that you wanted, like I always order workout programs under my husband's account. Like anything else, I order my Shakeology boosts under his account. Anything extra, I always put under him, because then I am all of that volume. Every time I order another $100 of team volume on his account, as a diamond, I'm getting $18 back on that. So like a bag of Shakeology, I'm paying $99 for it, but I'm in sense only paying like $80 for it. So, and it, I know at the beginning it can seem really, really slow, because you're just, you might make $14 one week, and then it'll be a few more weeks, and then you might make another 14. And I know I was like, how is this? Like, I just don't understand how this is going to grow. But if you keep getting coaches and adding them over onto this side, onto your right side, and let's say Rosalia, like I know she's been kind of looking in that training group and stuff. Let's say she just decides that she's going to, going to really start coaching actively, and she starts, maybe she's not building a team, but she starts running challenge groups like crazy and, is doing a ton of volume over there, just retail volume. All of that retail volume, you're then accumulating team volume to cycle on. And, if we go back over here, so, that's why you might have carryover volume at the beginning over here. But if you build your team, so, and that's why for you, Tia, I've been saying, build this right leg up first, because you have all of these coaches. Like here, you can see the PS is my personally sponsored because I'm in on my coach account. So you have Jeremy, you have Stephanie, you have Danielle. I'm not even sure who's whose coach he is. You have, use a couple emeralds down here. Deb over here is building a lot. Samantha is your emerald. So, you have a bunch of coaches over here and you're accumulating. Let me go back up here to where you are. And I will say, I'll look at your volume total here real quick. This week is pretty slow on volume, but so for this week, you've accumulated 474 team volume on your left leg. And you might not be able to cycle on it, and you have 40 team volume on your right. So you might not be able to cycle yet, but this 474 is getting added to that bank.
So the 40, right, on the right side?
Yeah, and the 40 is too. Yeah, exactly. They're both getting added, and then once you get to the point where you have 100 over here on this right side, then you'll get paid out another cycle. Once they can take that 100 volume from there and 200 from here. But that's why, because this leg, your left leg, is getting built by a bunch of other people, and some are your personally sponsored coaches. Like Samantha's been doing great. She definitely is adding to the volume over there, and she's your sponsored coach. And that's why, that's more for people who don't have other coaches above them building the team. I think that it can be discouraging because they feel like they're going to have to work, that much harder. But really all it takes is to find a coach or two of your own, or, maybe it's not even your personally sponsored coach. Like a coach of your coach's coach decides that they're going to, go crazy with the business and they get to 5-star. All of a sudden you are banking all of that volume. There are many, many examples of coaches who were basically orphaned, like Brienne was. I mean, Brienne has built a very successful business. Lindsay Matway was the first female top coach. I think she makes the most money of anybody in the network, and she was orphaned. She does not have anybody building under her. So it certainly is not like a death sentence in terms of that you aren't going to end up with being able to earn a lot of team cycles. So I don't want coaches who aren't on a team leg, or aren't on a very active leg, to feel like there's no way they're ever going to earn the team cycles and that they don't have that earning potential, because you absolutely do. It really just takes you building the team a little bit and finding the right people. And again, yeah, maybe it's not your personally sponsored coach, but maybe they bring somebody into the business who brings somebody else in who all of a sudden takes off. But yeah, so like in your case, Tia, you do have this, this stronger left leg right now. And that's why I've been saying, keep putting coaches over here on the right, because the more you put over here, the more you're going to cycle, for right now. until you get to the point where they are, they're earning half the weekly volume that these people are, then, and that's kind of how you want to look at it, because the equation is 200 from one side and 100 from the other. Ideally, you want one leg that earns half as much volume as the other, or one leg that earns twice as much volume as the other, however you want to look at it. Because when you hit that sweet spot, then you're maximizing your cycles. And it might be that then the other leg, you like mine flip back and forth. And I kind of have to, if one starts to accumulate volume, then I start putting coaches on the other side. And once that one starts to accumulate volume, then I put coaches on the other side. But I was in a situation a lot like you, Tia, where I did have volume accumulating on the one side, and it really was up to me to build this inside leg over here. And I focused on that, and that's how I maximized those team cycles for right now. And now, honestly, it's actually been a case of me having to build up this team leg, the leg that you're on, in order to continue to see growth there.
Let me ask you another question. I know Chris was talking at the summit, or not the summit, the Super Saturday, about having one family member on each side.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to do it early on.
Yes. I have not done that, so I think it's all kind of strategy.
That's what I'm like, how do I best strategize?
Yeah.
That's where I'm stuck.
And, I see where he's coming from, because that way you're taking advantage of, of the volume, no matter what side is the strongest. And I can see that, if you did have somebody all of a sudden take off and get to 5-star, and you didn't have somebody over, like a family member on that leg, you're basically kind of throwing that away in a sense. At the same time, I mean, there are a few ways to deal with that. So let's say it gets to the point where, I think that was Samantha's at your top. Let's say it gets to the point that Sam decides she doesn't want to coach anymore. You could always transfer her business to a family member. So you had one on the other side. So, like, if you know that a coach wants to quit and they're up at the top of your hierarchy, you can always transfer that business center to somebody. So that would be one way, if you don't have somebody on each side at the top, that you can basically get somebody there. You could also look at it like, which I guess that's a little bit further off, but I know we had talked about on that other call, for the leadership thing, once you get to 2-star diamond, you can actually open up another business center. So you basically you get another coach who is you. So you could always put that business center up at the top of that team structure too.
If I added somebody now, would they still be close enough to the top on the left, or no?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Because he mentioned like adding a coach and then just letting them be inactive until you need them, essentially.
Yeah. The thing too with with the volume, you are not going to start accumulating volume until you are an emerald. And if you're inactive, you flush all that volume. So basically, like if you just stick like Ed up here, he has never been emerald. So any volume that these guys are generating right now is just like going away for him. You're accumulating the volume over here on your right, but he isn't accumulating volume yet because he's not emerald. So if you are just going to stick somebody there and not get them to emerald, they're not going to accumulate anything. So I do see what Chris was saying, but I think it's also important that you be at a place in your business where you can build those other business centers too. So, like you've been doing really well, and I know you've had a lot of other stuff going on, but if you get to the point where you're like, oh yeah, I can really focus on the business this month, and I have 5 people who want to sign up as coaches, that might present a little bit different scenario than somebody who really works very part-time and is not bringing coaches in very quickly. Because like if you don't get him to Emerald, it doesn't matter where he is. Like he might as well be like all the way at the bottom, doing nothing.
Okay.
And likewise too, what I had talked about with flushing volume, let's say he does get to Emerald, and you're accumulating volume, and for him, that's where this comes into play. So he would be accumulating volume on both his left and his right, because you have Leah over here. So even though she's your personally sponsored coach, he is going to get volume up his left leg from her, and he's going to get volume up his right leg from Rosalia. Because all 3 of them are on your right, all of their volume is going to go onto your right. But for him, Leah's would go on his left, and Rosalia would go on his right. So as an Emerald, you're going to accumulate this volume and accumulate this volume. And even if you fall out of Emerald, you'll still continue to accumulate volume until you go inactive. So
Okay.
if he all of a sudden, if you were like, I can't order under him this month, and he went inactive, any volume that he had accumulated would be what we call flushed.
So if he accumulates volume for a year before he goes Emerald, then he can, cycle 50 times the first time?
Well, he would have to go Emerald first. You don't start accumulating until you go Emerald.
Okay.
If he went Emerald, so let's say something happened and you decided that you couldn't work the business right now. You wanted to keep your account. You wanted to keep drinking your Shakeology, and you fell out of Emerald. So let's say you couldn't afford to pay for Ed to stay active, and Leah and Rosalia left. So you would go back to being a coach. You wouldn't be Emerald because you didn't have an active coach on this leg. You would still continue to accumulate volume though over here until you got back to Emerald, until you put an active coach over on that other leg. Or if you made Ed active again, then you would basically go back. So there are some warnings to that if you are accumulating volume on both legs. So that's one thing I didn't really touch on. For each rank, there is a weekly cycle bonus cap. So as an Emerald, you cannot earn more than $250 a week in cycle bonuses. Emerald or Ruby, I think is $600, and Diamond is $1,000, and then the Star Diamonds are higher than that. So where the problem would come in is if, let's say Rosalia had sponsored a whole bunch of coaches over here, and she went inactive, and Ed was inactive, and Leah was inactive. So you don't have a personally sponsored coach over here. So you fall out of Emerald. You're just back to a coach. But meanwhile, Rosalia's team is going bonkers. They're selling all kinds of stuff. They have a ton of challengers. They're signing up all these coaches and building a huge team. You are still accumulating volume on everything that they are doing. But you're not an Emerald, so you're not cycling. if you got to the point where it was so much volume over here that it would be, and I think it's 17 cycles. So if you got enough volume over here, like more than 1700 volume for that, you know, so that you would cycle more than 17 times or 16 times, it would, anything over that, it would basically like just kind of, you would just keep cycling, but you couldn't get paid out on it because you would cap at $250. Well, and that would be once you got back to Emerald. So let's say you then made Ed active, and you had a ton of volume. You had like 5,000 volume sitting over here. It's going to cycle out. It can cycle up to 99 times. So it would cycle up to 99 times, but you would only get paid on 16 of them. You would only get paid up to.
It wouldn't carry over, right? It wouldn't carry over waiting for me to, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's really the only warning to that. But in general, most people aren't in that situation. Most people, you know, like you, it would, you know, if you fell out of Emerald and there were a couple of active coaches over here, but they weren't your own, it would take you a while to accumulate the volume. It's really only if you have, like if you have a diamond coach or you have a bunch of active coaches over there, it's just not your coaches
Right.
that are active. So that's, yeah, that's basically that. So does that make sense?
It does. That helped a lot.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, and that's why, you know, kind of the strategy I recommend for most people, is to build to diamond. So first get to Emerald, obviously, because you want to activate those cycles as quickly as possible. So you put one on your left and one on your right, get yourself to Emerald. Then what you're going to want to do is, if you do have volume, like from another leg, so like you have team volume. So in your case, that's why I recommended now just put coaches over here until you have your 4 coaches to get to diamond. And the reason for that is the more volume you get over here, because you have lots of volume here from all these other coaches that aren't on your team, you're going to cycle more. So in that waiting period while you're trying to get to diamond, if you build this up first, you're going to cycle more times because there's more volume because you have more bodies. If you're not in that situation, you can just kind of go back and forth. You could do like one on the left, one on the right, one on the left, one on the right. If you get the sense that, like, I know, you know, under you, Sam is pretty solid. It seems like she's going to stick around. If you had the sense that maybe she was going to quit, or go inactive, I might recommend putting another coach on your left just so you didn't lose Emerald. But so the strategy then is to, whatever your weak leg is, build that up to your 4 coaches first. Then build your other leg up to your 4 coaches. So you have 4 on your left and 4 on your right for diamond. And then you're going to work on getting your emeralds, which is not entirely up to you. Obviously, you need to have those other coaches building. But like in your case, you could sponsor under Ed and get him to Emerald to be your right side Emerald. And you already have Sam on your left who is Emerald. You would have to be an active Emerald. So, you know, then it does to kind of start to have to be, you know, you're working with your coaches to build. But that's why, you know, if you're still recruiting a lot and have a lot of people joining your team, at that point, like, almost go back and forth. I mean, you can stack this inside leg a little bit more so that you have, you know, you have that more volume, but you kind of want to go back and forth. And if you have somebody that says they want to work the business and you think they might take off really fast, put them on whatever side you're missing the emerald on. Basically, your goal at that point is to get to diamond because you want to be at the maximum cycle payout. Because as you saw, you know, just just for 2 cycles, the difference between emerald and diamond is $8, and that's really going to compound. So that's why we say then, if you're trying to get, if you're building a team, work on getting to diamond, with a focus on the inside leg or whatever leg has less volume, and then you can start to, really stack that inside leg. Once you get to diamond, you're going to want to stack this inside leg with as many coaches as you can, get these people building and get that volume on your inside leg up, because that's what's going to make those cycles really spike. And then you start getting into, then you're working with your coaches to get them to diamond. So, for 1 star, you only need a diamond on one side, obviously, because you only have one of them. But to get to 2 star, you need a diamond on each leg. So then you're kind of back into the, the build, working with your coaches to help them build as well. But yeah, that's why we recommend why we push so hard, I guess, for getting to diamond, because that's really going to help you maximize that cycle money right away. And then you can kind of sit back and assess another strategy and build that inside leg up if you have one that's weaker, and really focus on maximizing the cycle, the volume, I should say.
Okay. That was very helpful. That helped a lot. It helped clear it up a lot. I was trying to do division and everything else, dividing one side by 200, and I'm like, oh, get this straight.
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah, the subtraction is a lot easier.
Yeah, and that is, if you do have a lot of carryover, so, and that's what, I guess I should say, so if you do have a lot of carryover on one side and you want to see what your kind of like your locked up money is, like in this instance, you have 3,600 over here and 5 over here. Well, you could figure out how much money you have locked up in that 3,600 of carryover volume, so you take the 3,600, you divide by 200, because that's going to be the side that you're subtracting 200 from. And then that's going to be your number of cycles that is locked up in that carryover, and you can multiply it by whatever your rank payout is. But other than just figuring out what you have sitting there in a locked up cycle payout, it's much easier to just kind of focus on, like, this side has more, so I want to build the other side is really what it comes down to.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, let me stop sharing the screen. And yeah, for anyone watching the recording, if there are any questions, just post them, or we can do another call on this too, for sure. I know this is a topic that people often have questions on, and sometimes it takes, and each individual scenario is a little bit different too. But yeah, hopefully this cleared things up for everyone. So thanks for hopping on.